to 93% on your back taxes. Get your fresh start today. That's 800-312-9970.
You're listening to the JR Sport Brief.
It is the JR Sport Brief Show here with you coast to coast on the
Central Texas home for sports. It's Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports. Catch all your in-depth sports analysis with the best. The hottest sports show in the evening is Centex Primetime, hosted by Jalen Gillis.
Act like y'all.
Weekdays 5 to 7. This is the Central Texas #1 leader in sports. Centex Sports Network.
That's right, sports fans. We can talk about sports.
And Infinity Sports. Central Texas home for sports. It's Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports. KWBT-FM, HD2 Waco, Temple, Killeen, Fort Cavazos. The new leader in sports in Central Texas is Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports.
Holy Jesus. What is that?
It's time to get in the game.
You know what time it is.
Tune in to Primetime Sports Talk with Jalen Gillis.
To me, you are nothing.
Your go-to source for breaking sports news in Central Texas and exclusive Dallas Cowboys coverage.
Start it up, let's go.
Catch us Monday through Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. on the Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Centex Prime Time. I am your host, Jalen Gillis, getting ready to take you through the prime time topics in sports, not only just in this Central Texas area, but from all around the nation. I want to wish everybody a happy Tuesday. Some of you guys just now clocking out, just now getting off of work, on your way headed home. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in with me today, rocking out with us as we get ready to go through the primetime topics in sports, folks. It is the best time of the year if you are a sports fan. The most wonderful time of the year for everybody else is Christmas. If you're a sports fan, it's mid to late October. We got the NBA season starting tonight. We'll talk about that later in the show. NFL season in full throttle as we head to week 8. Just finished wrapping up week 7 last night with the Baltimore Ravens beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Arizona Cardinals, getting, I would say surprising, but not too surprising win over the Los Angeles Chargers. Folks, as always, go over to YouTube if you want to be able to watch this content weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Go to YouTube, Centex Sports Network, or Centex Sports TV on YouTube. If you want to be able to listen to this content on Infinity Sports Radio Central Texas, download the app Centex Sports One on the Google Play Store or on the Apple Store. We'll have some guests joining on with us a little bit later as we go throughout the show today. And like I said, the best time of the year. We've got NBA season starting, NFL season going through, going to week 8 after just wrapping up last night. The World Series is set and ready to go as we got a huge matchup and probably the best matchup we've had in years, not only just skill-wise, but city-wise. We got the East Coast versus the West Coast back at it again. Yankees versus Dodgers. Doesn't get any more historic than that as far as baseball goes, and it's been a very interesting baseball season, so no more fitting way to close out the baseball season than with the Yankees and the Dodgers. Before I get all the way into the show, we'll talk about the games from last night. I got a shout out to Lamar Jackson and James Conner for winning me my fantasy game yesterday. I was down 55 points going into Monday night. Thought this week was a wash. I was on a 5-game winning streak in my fantasy league. The league is pretty competitive, and Lamar Jackson with his 5-touchdown game, and James Conner I mean, it came all the way down to the last minute. I won by like 3 points. Came all the way down to that last catch by James Conner that got the Cardinals in field goal position to put them in position to be able to win that game. I was sweating that one out after having a not so successful season. I mean, not so successful weekend when it comes to sports play and sports betting, and put together a crazy 8-leg parlay this weekend that came all the way down to the very last game of the night. I got to go through some of these games. I got to tell y'all, because I'm telling y'all, I'm starting to find the crystal ball and find this script. I think they're sending me the script now, some of these games. I thought I had it until the very last game on Saturday night and Sunday night. So it just wasn't that good, wasn't that great of a weekend for me. Not much of Sunday, but Saturday, I mean, for sure was pretty hectic to have to sit through. I'll tell y'all my picks for Saturday. I had started off good. I mean, started off great. It was eight-leg parlay. I had South Carolina money line. That was cash. Notre Dame on the money line, cash. Miami -4, taking on Louisville. That cashed. Indiana, I knew they were going to smack Nebraska. Picked them money line. I don't know who messed up and put Colorado +2.5. That was easy money. LSU -2.5, cash against Arkansas. Kansas State against West Virginia -2.5, easy cash. And you know, it's always that last one that gets you. You feel like you're being greedy. You never know which one of them is going to be the one to get you out. But when it's the last one, it hurts because you feel like, man, I didn't even have to add that. I didn't even have to add that. I could have went without doing that. Last one of the night, Utah -3.5 versus TCU. Needless to say, Utah let me down. Had a pretty good bounce back on Sunday. Buffalo Bills money line versus Tennessee Titans, easy cash. Philly -3. I have no idea why that was -3. That was the easiest cash of the day. Texans +3. Even though we lost, I got that +3. Detroit Lions +1.5. Knew what that was going to be like. And for some reason, I just thought the Miami Dolphins will be able to get their stuff together against the Indianapolis Colts, who've been playing not so great of football, especially when I seen that Anthony Richardson was coming back to the lineup. I thought that would be easy cash, but of course they got me. They got me +2.5, and didn't turn out so great for me on that. So since my fantasy team got back in the win column, I got to end the weekend with some type of victory. As join the studio with me is Mr. Rocky Miller, and we go through some of these parlays throughout the week, and thought I was gonna come in bragging this week. I didn't put, wasn't too much stake on it, so I wasn't messed up about the money.
Hey, but you had a chance to win some big money.
Oh man, I thought I was gonna be having a great weekend. I'm not gonna lie to you. That 8-leg parlay adds up with all of them get together. But
you would have had a good week.
Oh man, it would have been a real good week. I might have bet something stupid coming into this week. I ain't gonna lie. If I had something like if that would have cashed, but Utah let me down, man. So don't worry, y'all. This is the last time I'll ever put any money on Utah. I don't like the Jazz. I don't like the Utah Utes. I don't even know if I like BYU after that. They ain't even had nothing to do with this, but they in Utah too. So that's how my weekend went. But folks, I want to talk about how the Week 7 wrapped up in the NFL. Got to watch a great game last night, and honestly, a masterclass put on by the two-time MVP in Lamar Jackson. Baltimore Ravens come out with the win, 41-31. It ended up being closer than what it was towards the end of that game. 41-31 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that is having a good season as well in Tampa Bay. Lamar Jackson, 17 for 22, 281 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, 158 passer rating, 91 QBR.
That's a perfect rating.
Yeah, perfect rating.
158.3, I think is.
Yeah.
What it is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Perfect rating for Lamar Jackson. Derrick Henry still continues to show that he is, if not the best back in the league, one of the best backs in the league. You can pick between him and
just sheer negligence.
Yeah.
On Jerry Jones' part.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
We got $25 million in cap space.
Sitting.
A putrid running attack. And Derrick Henry, who lives in the Dallas area.
His whole career, by the way, has lived in Dallas.
Again. And you don't pick up the phone. You don't call. You don't. You know, man, you know, one of the things I have that frustrates me about like NFL insight, right?
Yeah.
Of course, they have a lot more information than we do or whatever. Guys who have coached, guys who've played, guys who've been scouts, guys who've covered the game. They make the game seem so complex.
Yeah. No, seriously.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if Dallas makes the obvious move, no Zeke, no Pollard, go get Henry, that makes your team better, and you don't do it. Like, that's simple. Like, you don't need to be a Hall of Fame GM to make that, to realize that you need a running back. You know what I mean? Like you have Dowdle, who's been on 5 teams, 4 teams, basically a career practice squad player.
Yeah,
his entire career, and you're going to depend on him to carry the load while you make a run to the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? Then, you know, I personally like the signing of Zeke. Because I saw what we were in short yardage.
Yeah, last year.
We struggled in short yardage. Again, I thought Zeke would bring some short yardage punch to us. But at the end of the day, what Derrick, and I didn't realize that they were in the same draft, man. That makes me feel
Yeah. Because I didn't have a show back then, but with Kyrell, who's on the show with me regularly, we lived together at that time, and I said, man, y'all should have drafted Jalen Ramsey and then just got Derrick Henry in the second, who went in the second round.
Yeah.
He was, no, man, we got Zeke and it. Which wasn't a bad pick then, obviously. Wasn't a bad pick then. Zeke was arguably the best back in the league for 3 years there, his first few years. But it kind of just aged like milk there.
I think what I see in Dallas, right? You want to see if your decisions pan out. But I could have seen this a mile coming from a mile away. Like, you just bring Derrick Henry in your building and it makes your team better. It makes your offensive line better. It makes your offense better. That coming off a season where he was
makes Dak way better.
An MVP candidate.
Yeah.
What does Derrick Henry make you?
Exactly.
We see what it, to be honest with you, Lamar didn't need the help. You know what I mean? He was already the MVP.
Yeah.
Right? And they had a pretty stout running game last year without Derrick Henry. But again, as a Cowboy fan, it's just frustrating. Yeah. And they make it seem like, what's the cap number? You know what I mean? What style of running back he is? Is he downhill or what we like to say in the shotgun? Come on, man. They just giving that dude the football and say tackle him if you can.
Yeah.
And with the speed that he possesses down the field, once he breaks the line of scrimmage, he's a tough guy to bring down.
Yeah.
The main thing is with what Derrick Henry does, and he did this for Tannehill too when he played for Tannehill.
Oh yeah.
It makes the passing game look so simple because not only can he hit you for the short game, he can hit you for the long game. So you have to keep guys. Your DBs always have to be engaged in the running game. So with that being said, you get a guy like Mark Andrews, who is obviously over the hill. You make him look like he's in his prime because you have to stay on alert for Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
But, I don't know how many balls he caught last night, but it seemed like every other.
He only caught 4, but 2 of them was touchdowns.
Yeah. But and he was wide open. Every time.
Wide open.
Yeah, it was just him and Jesus out there in the field. Anyway, and Lamar is one of those guys that he makes the game look so easy.
Yeah, man.
He makes the game look so easy. And I know the game can't be that easy, but that's just my frustration. Like it's just frustrating me that Dallas, who is a team that's desperately in need of a running game, didn't do anything to improve their running game.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And I won't come back to the Ravens, but since you're talking about Dallas, we just seen Jerry Jones once again on this. Jerry Jones should start a podcast, and he'll make way more money than with how many headlines he's putting out on his Tuesday morning interviews. He comes out this morning and says Derrick Henry wouldn't be having this type of season he's having if he was on Dallas. He doesn't even fit. We don't run that type of scheme that they run in Baltimore. So he really essentially saying he doesn't fit in Dallas's scheme, which is just absurd. Rocky just laid out for many reasons why it's absurd. Derrick Henry can fit any scheme. It's almost like he's one of the best running backs to ever play football.
Now, can't fit the no blocking scheme.
Yeah.
Then it seems like we may be running sometimes. But you can't, and again, that's one of the things that, okay, that's a little double talk he's doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about it doesn't fit our scheme and other as if we don't watch the game.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly. Exactly.
The fact of the matter is, for him to try to insinuate that Derrick Henry wouldn't make our running game better is absurd. Like, that's my problem. Like, with a lot of these guys who are quote unquote NFL experts, insiders, industry guys, whatever you want to say. Like, I can see if we had the option to give Derrick Henry the ball, not only would our running game be better, our overall offense would be better.
Oh yeah.
You know,
sure.
We don't. We don't have a perimeter running that game because neither one of our running backs are, to me, read blocks very well or set up blocks very well. You know, I think when Zeke had speed, he could get around the end just by sheer speed. But for the most part, he was tackle to tackle, downhill running back, and he did that well.
Mm-hmm.
Now we don't have much variety in our running game other than we give the ball to CD. And again, us giving the ball to CD to get the ball around the end, in my opinion, that's exposing CD to a point where if he's going to catch 100 balls and then turn around and carry the ball 40, 50 times a season, come on, guys. Like at some point, we're going to get him dinged up or banged up by doing that. If we had a running game where you could kind of take the pressure off of him not to be the entire offense, you know, we would just be a better team, man. And again, and the main thing is the running game keeps that defense off the field.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't give any points up while, you know, we're running the ball and possessing the ball. So, it
helps every aspect of the team.
Yeah. So
defense,
for him to
offense,
make it
everything.
feel like he doesn't fit our scheme, bull crap.
Yeah.
He fit Derrick Henry. That's like saying Eric Dixon doesn't fit your scheme. Walter Payton doesn't fit your scheme. Tony Dorsett doesn't fit your if those guys don't fit your scheme, you're running the wrong scheme.
Exactly. That's exactly. You are running the wrong scheme if Derrick Henry somehow doesn't fit your run scheme.
And it's almost like Derrick Henry is a system running back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Come on, man.
He was in Tennessee. Let's not act like he was in Kansas City or he was in one of these explosive offense, the Rams of 2019, the 2020 Buccaneers. Let's not act like he was in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill.
I'm gonna say this with confidence. He's gonna lead the league in rushing, and it's not gonna even be close if he stays healthy.
And how many times would that make it that he's done that? It's ridiculous at this point. The times that he does lead the league in yards, it's never close. He's on pace right now, which I don't know if he'll be able to do it. For the Ravens' sake, I don't think they're going to want him to be able to break Eric Dickerson's record because you want him to be healthy in January and February going forward. You don't really want him to get 40 carries a game. But he's on pace to smack Eric Dickerson's record right now, which is crazy. A record we haven't seen been broken.
Was it 2107?
Yeah. No, yeah. I think 2107. Yeah. Let me look it up to be sure. But yeah, That's crazy to say that he's having that good of a season already, even with his first 2 games not even being that good. His first 2 games, he was under 70 yards. He's gone so crazy over the last few games that he's already on track to be able to break that record. If they give him that many carries, I don't think they'll give him that many carries. So back to the Ravens point, and shout out Antonio on the Facebook said Lamar's a dog. He is, man. Lamar's a dog. Make sure you guys go over to Facebook on Centex Sports Network on Facebook or on YouTube, Centex Sports Network or Centex Sports TV. Jump in the chat and let us know what y'all think about the convos we're having. But Lamar, I mean, it's crazy to say that a 2-time MVP is better right now than he's already been, and he's a 2-time MVP, and they had the best record in the league last year. I mean,
2105. My bad.
2105. Yeah.
I grew up watching Eric Dixon.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was a running back as a youngster.
Yeah.
He was my favorite running back. So those
sure.
some things just stick in my head. And at 21, and at the time, there have been some guys who you thought had a chance to break it.
AP.
AP. You also had Chris Johnson,
CJ2K. Derrick Henry, when he went over 2,000 the first time, he'll be the only person to have a chance to go over 2,000 twice.
That's what I will say. If Derrick Henry happens to go over 2,000 twice in one career, that solidifies him at probably – now, I wouldn't have said this 2 years ago, but that'll solidify him as a top 5 running back ever in the sport.
You don't think he's there right now?
No.
I'm not mad at that.
No. I mean, again,
I'm not mad at that.
When you – because I think when you evaluate running backs, errors matter.
For sure.
And so when you think about those guys who did run for 2,000, those guys were the offense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Walter Payton.
They were
Eric
more like
Dickerson.
his years in Tennessee.
Yeah.
He was. Now you see what's happening where he's not really the offense, but he can eat like a pig in that offense because you have to account for when Lamar hands that ball off, the backside guy can't run and chase Henry.
Yeah.
If Lamar gets out the back door on you, you know. So it's essentially you can't commit 11 to trying to stop the run anymore.
That's what makes him so dangerous.
At least one guy on Lamar.
And that's what makes this team so dangerous. And they had the best record in the league last year. Lamar won the MVP last year. I think the Ravens had the potential to be better this year. And I think Lamar is better right now than he's been. And he's a 2-time MVP, which is just crazy to say that he could be better. But Derrick Henry has unlocked him fully, like you just said, how it complements the passing game. He's now 15 touchdowns, 2 picks to start the season. Only had 24 touchdowns last year.
Well, like I say, every play with both of them on the field at one time, based on coverage dictate with the coverage you're going to get, based on Lamar's ability, man, every play could go to the house, man.
Yeah.
You know, with either one of those guys. And unfortunately, they don't have the kind of Zay Flowers is to me a good wide receiver, really, really good young wide receiver. But he's no CeeDee Lamb. He's no Amon-Ra St. Brown or anything like that.
Yeah.
But as he develops, they get more dangerous as well, you know, as he develops as a player. So at the end of the day, they have a great complement of athletes. I mean, a great complement of players.
Yeah.
And so I don't foresee. It's amazing that they lost their first 2 games this year.
Yeah, honestly, looking at this,
but they should have won both of them too.
They should have. They most definitely should have won both of those games, but they didn't. And for them to have that 0-2 start and come together the way they are now, and I got to give credit to Todd Monken because I was critical of him last year and the beginning of this year. Got to give him credit. This offense is now working. Now, you do have 2 of the best players in the league, so it's not like you just have to call a crazy scheme week in and week out when you got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. But they're starting to figure out this scheme. They're starting to figure out this offense, and they're starting to get their go-to plays on what they want to do, and that's really all I wanted to see. He's being able to make his stamp now. They have an identity on the offensive side of the ball. Shocking that their defense isn't following it. The Ravens haven't had an explosive offense my entire life, honestly, and they've had a good defense my entire life, honestly. And now the year that they finally have an explosive offense, their defense is what's lacking. Now, I know they have injuries on the defensive side of the ball, but still, their defense isn't lacking. And shout out Zach Orr. He's the new defensive coordinator there. It's no longer Wink Martindale that it was for years. Zach Orr, a young dude, retired from the NFL young. And, hopefully he gets their defense together. But as of right now, that's the weak spot on their team. And hopefully it doesn't come back to bite them as they get later into the season.
For me, their defense always was predicated on two things. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They were tough and physical.
Yeah.
But one thing they could do was stop the run. The other thing they could do was rush the passer. Those two things made them situationally very tough, especially when they were up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll see. I think there's a lot of growth that their offense can make. Defense can make as the weather gets more difficult.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
their defense will get better, and so we'll see. But again, they're one of those teams that I don't think you'll be able to judge them by ranking because the teams that they play are going to be behind a lot. They're going to be able to drop back and pass against them, and so they may end up giving up a lot of yards over the course of the season. However, situationally, that's when you will be able to tell how good they are. And I'll pay for them. I'll judge them by how they play on third down and in critical situations. I won't judge them based on total yardage. They're going to be up a lot, and so teams are going to end up.
That makes sense. We just seen it last night with Tampa Bay. They got down 30-10. So by default, you're going to give up a lot of yards because they're going to come out and try to stretch the field for the entire rest of the game. So
they're still thumping though.
Yeah, man. Kyle Hamilton is an old man.
They're thumping.
I wanted the Texans to draft Kyle Hamilton so bad. He played like this when he was at Notre Dame. I knew he was going to be a dog when he was in the league. He's bringing back that old school mentality of safety. Every week in and week out, Kyle Hamilton is smacking somebody. They got Roquan Smith, who's right up there for best linebacker in the league. I give the edge to Fred Warner right now, but Roquan Smith is right there for best linebacker in the league. Marlon Humphrey's one of the best DBs in the league. So they got good players on their defense still. Like you said, as it gets colder throughout the season, their defense is going to come together more. And as Zach Orr just figures out what he wants to be his go-to, Wink Martindale was going to put a lot of pressure. He blitzed. The only person probably blitzed more than him is probably Todd Bowles in Tampa Bay and Steve Spagnuolo in Kansas City. Wink Martindale was going to try to light you up with the blitz. So a little bit of a different scheme. Before we move off of them, we was talking about Derrick Henry in the top 5, and you might move him up into your top 5 running backs. I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but could you give me who your top 5 is in the running backs just of all time? And I know that's kind of an on-the-spot thing to put you on. Okay. But I'll just like to hear, because most of the people that I would put in there was before I was able to actually watch football. It's me going back and watching football. So but you got to actually watch it.
My favorite is going to be Barry Sanders.
For sure.
Right? And so let me preface this by saying this. This is going to be a favorite more than just the because I think best, greatest is arguable.
Yeah, for
sure. You know what I mean? But these are my guys.
Okay.
So we're talking Barry Sanders. We're talking Eric Dickerson. Of course, we're talking Jim Brown.
Yeah.
And I do like Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, man. That's
and I have to get that last spot to Walter Payton.
Oh yeah.
And so if you notice, Emmett isn't in my top 5, even though he is.
I would have had some objection if you put Emmett in your top 5, honestly.
I watched Emmett a lot, and Emmett benefited from some great offensive line.
Running behind Larry Allen, man.
And when you think of what Emmett did, it was amazing. It was amazing. But if you look at Nate, Eric Williams, Nate Newton, Tuanay, Stepnoski, Gogan, like that's 4 out of 5 of those guys are arguably Larry Allen. I mean,
probably the best guard ever.
So again, when you talk about what he had to run behind, and again, I watched the games, so I'm not gonna go just off of stats. So that's why Emmett is in my top 5. No disrespect to Emmett whatsoever.
Oh, no.
But I'm just saying, for my taste, those are my guys.
No, for sure. I agree. I got pretty much the same guys in there. I always say Adrian, not in order, but Adrian Peterson for sure in my lifetime, the best running back to put cleats on. So he's always in my top 5. Was one of my favorite players since he was at Palestine in high school. So I got AP in there. I always got to put, Barry, just what he was able to do with the football is actually ridiculous considering that he was on the Lions, and you could only imagine what he would do if he was on a better team. So Barry, Adrian Peterson. I love Eric Dickerson, man. Eric Dickerson was special with the football out there as well. So what is that, 3 people? And then it starts getting tough, man. I want to put Walter Payton in there. Contrary to other people, man, O.J. Simpson was special, man. O.J. Simpson was special as a runner with the football for sure. Man, so the last 2, I got to put Walter in there, so it's really just one. So the last spot is a toss-up for me between O.J., Jim Brown, and LaDainian, man. I love what LaDainian was able to do in his time with the Chargers, because not much of his running style, but what he was able to do in both the passing game and his rushing style to go together with it.
And I think when you start, because I think you can break down running backs a number of ways. Because then you start talking about when you bring in a guy like LaDainian in, he's certainly top 5 when you talk about all-around running back.
Oh, yeah.
Then you bring him, Marshall Faulk,
a
few other guys into the conversation. It tickles me how much recency bias that's out there in football now. That we would even consider Christian McCaffrey as a top 5.
I get sick of it, man.
Like running back. Like
they gotta stop this stuff, man.
Again, McCaffrey's a great player.
Oh yeah,
don't get me. He's a great player.
Definitely.
And in this era, he's almost, I would consider, a perfect running back.
Yeah.
But when I think about running backs, I'm thinking about a guy who you can line up and give him the ball against the number 1 defense in the league 3 straight times, and does he get you a first down?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or can he? Now, he has that breakaway element, but I think to really unlock a guy like Christian McCaffrey, you have to be able to use him in other ways other than just traditional running back. Marshall Faulk is the unique guy. Because I think he is a true running back. You can judge him as a true running back, but as an all-around guy, he was sensational as well. Like, he's a guy, he's one of those guys, man. So
no, definitely. Marshall Faulk is for sure one of those guys, and the recency bias for Christian McCaffrey is crazy, man. It's about 20 backs I'm taking before McCaffrey, and I'm not just saying 20 off top, but it's a lot of backs I'm taking all time over McCaffrey.
Just as a young player and him having durability issues, that kind of eliminates him from my mind. Because one of the things that when you look at Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, Eric Dickerson, even O.J. Simpson, and now Derrick Henry, they don't have durability issues. Durability is not a question with those guys.
Nope.
And as a running back, I think, for you to put up numbers, you have to be able to answer the bell. And for Christian McCaffrey, that's always been a challenge for him, no matter what team he was on.
He's only had a few good seasons because of the durability issue. So his good seasons have been great, but I'm not going to take his best 4 seasons against Terrell Davis' best 4 seasons, who only had 4 good seasons in the Hall of Fame off of those 4 seasons because of how good he was. No, I'm not doing that. So it's tough with the McCaffrey thing. It's not a lot of backs in the last 15 years, honestly, that I will put up there in that status. Obviously, Derrick Henry, if he can get this back-to-back or even potentially break this record. Adrian Peterson, obviously already got in there. Maybe a fringe guy like Frank Gore, just because of the longevity of his career. Never really had a top season like some of these other guys, but the longevity of his career. But there's not a lot of guys in the last 15 years, man. The game is just different, and that's just how it is. Shout out Earl Campbell, too. I ain't even mentioned him. If Pops was here, he'd probably be mad. You know, that's his guy. He's an Oilers fan, so he would want Earl Campbell to be in there.
Earl was special. Earl had one of those careers that fizzled out really quick. And I'm going to be honest with you. I was a guy that thought, I think Derrick Henry had a troubling season year before last.
I believe so.
And I thought he may have been washed. Too many carries.
Yeah.
But he comes back and we see what he has to offer.
He's already almost passed the amount of yards he had last season. Last year, he only had 1,100 yards. He's already at 873 right now. So to see the comeback.
He's not even halfway through the season.
Not even halfway through the season. Only 7 games into the season. Last year, in 17 games, only had 1,100 yards. Still managed to get 12 touchdowns out of that 1,100. But what he's doing so far this season is special. So the Ravens are looking special right now. And we'll talk a little bit more about them and some more of these teams in the NFL when we come back. We're going to go to a short break, folks. When we come back, still got to talk about some of these teams around the league after we wrapped up Week 7. What are we looking at in the NFC? What are we looking at in the AFC as far as some of these top teams? We'll talk about that when we come back. You're watching Centex Primetime on YouTube, Centex Sports Network, and listening on Infinity Sports Radio and the Centex Sports One app. We'll be right back after this.
Texas home for sports. It's Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports. Catch all your in-depth sports analysis with the best. The hottest sports show in the evening is Centex Primetime, hosted by Jalen Gillis.
Act like y'all.
Weekdays 5 to 7. This is the Central Texas #1 leader in sports. Centex Sports Network.
That's right, sports fans. We can talk about sports.
And Infinity Sports.
Lighthouse Streaming, a full-scale media agency and your go-to source for all things audio and video. Is your church long overdue for audio and video upgrades? Call Lighthouse Streaming for a free consultation. Does your corporate or church event need audio or video production? Don't stress. Call the guys at Lighthouse Streaming. In business since 2017, Lighthouse Streaming has produced hundreds of live events and completed dozens of church and venue installations. Whatever your AV needs are, Lighthouse Streaming has you covered. Give them a call at 254-252-4206. That's 254-252-4206. Or go to lighthousestreaming.com and set up your free consultation.
Are you looking for something new and unforgettable in Waco? Come to the Blazing Asian, where authentic Cambodian flavors meet creative culinary flair. Voted People's Choice as Waco's #1 Asian restaurant since 2019 by both the Wacoan Magazine and the Waco Tribune Herald. Located inside the popular Union Hall on 8th and Franklin, we're serving up family recipes with a twist. Blazing Asian egg rolls are rolled fresh daily, and their sauces or marinades are made in-house with love. Stop by today. Located inside the popular Union Hall on 8th and Franklin. And for Baylor students, enjoy 10% off with your student ID.
NSJ Event Co., one of the premier event designers in Central Texas and a Centex Sports Network supporter. Voted Waco Awards Event Planner of the Year 2021, NSJ Event Co. is your go-to source for event planning. Whether it's your next baby shower, birthday bash, wedding, or retirement party, NSJ Event Co. will bring out the elegance, class, and style your event deserves. Call NSJ Event Co. at the number on the screen or scan the QR code to schedule a free consultation. NSJ Event Co., where the party lady takes care of all your event needs.
Central Texas home for sports. It's Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports. KWBT-FM, HD2 Waco, Temple, Killeen, Fort Cavazos. The new leader in sports in Central Texas is Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports. This is live from the Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports Studios.
That's right, sports fans.
About to show these boys how we do it. You ready?
Tune in to Primetime Sports Talk with Jalen Gillis, your go-to source for breaking sports news in Central Texas and exclusive Dallas Cowboys coverage on the Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into Centex Primetime. Right here before the top of the hour break. Just got done talking about in hour number 1, the Baltimore Ravens moving to 5-2 now on the season. after an 0-2 start, have put on a 5-game winning streak, moves them at the top of the division now over the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're now tied with at 5-2. Both have a 2-1 home record. Baltimore is 1-0 in the division after getting that win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Lamar Jackson looking like an MVP candidate once again out there in Baltimore. I said either last week or the week before, I didn't think that he was going to win it because he just won it last year, and I don't think they're going to give him back-to-back MVP honors after he's already got 2 of them. But he's going to make it tough on the voters this year if they don't want to vote him in that spot.
Who can you give it to?
I have no idea. But at this point in the season last year, I didn't think Lamar was going to win it. But the way that the season turned out, he ended up winning it. So I don't know. I don't know who's going to emerge as the MVP candidate. Lamar is obviously at the top of that. Derrick Henry is honestly right in that conversation as well. And they'll probably end up taking votes from each other in that.
It won't be Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, we know it won't be Deshaun Watson, who is now out for the year and potentially out for next year, with you tearing your Achilles in midseason. Man, I don't know how that's going to go for Deshaun Watson, honestly, and how he'll even bounce back from something like that physically and mentally. And I don't want to say that that he was underpreparing or something, but there was times out there it looked like he didn't want to be on the field. And if you cheat the game, man, it's not going to end up turning out good. You're not giving it 100%. You can't go out there and play around, faking around, playing football. This is a 100% injury sport, and unfortunately, Deshaun Watson ended up getting injured in that game. So yeah, like we said, the Browns are out of that. But I want to talk about these top teams in both of these conferences, the AFC and the NFC. Now that we're 7 games into it, we're starting to figure out a little bit more about teams. We know the Ravens are good. We know the Chiefs are still good. We know the Jets suck. There's certain things we're figuring out that we had questions about coming into the season. I thought the Jets would be better than what they are, but that turns out that they're not. I thought the Dolphins would be better than they are. Turns out Mike McDaniel can't coach because, yeah, Tua is hurt, but no way you got the amount of Ferraris you got on the Miami Dolphins roster and you're sitting at 2-4. And you lose to an Indianapolis Colts team where Anthony Richardson didn't complete a pass in the first quarter. So those are games you have to win whenever you're playing against somebody like that. But we look at Pittsburgh, sitting at 5-2. They made the QB change last week to Russell Wilson. Turned out to be a pretty good deal. Now, yeah, it was the Jets that they had, and I still don't think that Russell Wilson played great in that game, but the Steelers still winning. It's not too many coaches that can even pull off just saying, hey, I'm going to play around the quarterback for a little bit and see who I like better in the middle of the season. But Mike Tomlin's got enough cachet to be able to do that. The Texans, even though they lost to a good Green Bay team, they're still right up there, in my opinion, as one of the top teams in the AFC. And Kansas City, they just find a way to win. They find a way to win. They beat the 49ers on Sunday pretty convincingly. I think we're really, really starting to see who Brock Purdy really is. Now, yeah, he was down his top 3 wide receivers. He's down the best player on offense in Christian McCaffrey. Trent Williams was ejected, but that was at the end of the game. Still got George Kittle. But it's not even about that. The things that exposed Brock Purdy in my eyes was 2 touchdowns that you underthrew that ended up not being touchdowns. That pass to George Kittle over the top should have been a touchdown. That would have changed the perspective of the game. That pass to the young receiver, I think it was Gibbons, who got out and ended up getting that 40-yard catch. That was supposed to be a touchdown, but Brock Purdy underthrew him on that one by about 10 yards. So we're starting to see who Brock Purdy is. Plus the turnovers were bad turnovers. There's no reason for you to be throwing in double coverage on the 5-yard line if you're Brock Purdy. And we're starting to see who Brock Purdy is as we talk about some of the top teams in the NFC.
Was there
ever
any question about who he was?
Well, I think that some people put him in a higher light than what he was. Not saying that he's elite, and I was never on that bandwagon of people like Dan Orlovsky talking about he's an elite quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback. So, I never thought that, but I thought he was a high-functioning game manager.
So okay, we can have this conversation, but at the end of the day, when you have your full complement of receivers and your full complement of running backs, a great play caller, right? and your skill set allows you to be just a distributor of the football. Not a playmaker, because that's different, but a distributor of the football. I think Brock Purdy can look just as good as any quarterback in the league. The issue is, like with probably 80% of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
When you don't have your full complement of wide receivers and you don't have that running game to lean on, and your offensive coordinator is struggling to find things that organically work, and you're against a defense that has your number.
Yeah.
Can you pull a rabbit out of a hat? And I don't think Brock Purdy has ever shown the capacity in any point to pull a rabbit out of a hat. His single best game that he's ever had was in that Detroit Lions game down the stretch.
Yeah.
You know, and we all know what the Detroit Lions defense was.
It still is, yeah.
You know what I mean? So let's be. I think people were quick to try to move him into a class of quarterback that he hadn't earned. You know,
for sure.
We saw against the. I'll put it like this. Against Daniel Richardson, he'll look really good. Even against a guy like Goff, he'll look really good. But what happened when you lined him up against Lamar last year? He got destroyed. So when I think when you put him apples to apples on another against another quarterback. Matter of fact, this is kind of what defines Brock Purdy to me. And I know one game doesn't define a quarterback.
Yeah,
but it kind of shapes how I view him as being capable. The Browns went in the game last year with I forget the kid's name, PTR, BTR, DTR.
Oh, last week.
No, last year against San Francisco. They
hosted Kelly Thompson.
They hosted him, and then they ended up playing the third string quarterback because that guy got hurt. Right. Well, they couldn't pull that game out, even when the Browns had the third string quarterback in the game, because the Browns was playing great on defense. And they said, hey, Brock Purdy's going to have to beat us. And he couldn't beat the third string quarterback that the Browns was playing. So, again, when he has Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, he's he can be a distributor of football. But he's never going to be the guy that leads the team to victory, in my opinion, if he develops into that. And let's be honest, he's still a young quarterback.
Yeah.
But he's always going to be physically limited, in my opinion, just based on arm strength.
Yep. Especially that.
And physical ability.
Yeah, and he's showing why he was the last pick in the draft. Honestly, when you take away those guys, now I knew if you take away those guys, obviously he wasn't going to be good. The thing I did like about Brock Purdy at first, even in the times, because the 49ers had to be one of the most hurt teams in history. So he's played plenty of games without Debo and McCaffrey and all of these guys. At least he didn't turn the ball over. That's what I did. That's what I did like about him is, okay, just don't turn the ball over. Yeah, you're going to have 109 yards at the end of the game, but just don't turn the ball over. But the repeated turning the ball over, and you don't have those physical traits to be able to bring the team.
Turnovers anytime you can stop the run. Anytime you can stop the run. I don't care if Debo and Ayuk is out there. When you can stop the running game and get them in third and long, second and long situations, then he's a different guy. When he's passing the ball on 3rd and 4, he's a great third down quarterback.
Yeah.
He has to throw it from me to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Literally 4 yards. Think about it. 4 yards is a distance. Yeah. You know, it's not that much further than me to you. He's a great quarterback. But to push the ball down the field.
Oh yeah, that was never him. That was never him. And unfortunately, this is all showing up right around the time it's about time for him to get a contract. Unfortunately, this is all showing up when the 49ers are trying to make another run back to the Super Bowl, which at this point I'm going to say that they're not. And we've seen them go to the NFC Championship as 8-8. So I'm not going to say it just because of their record. I'm going to say it just based off how they're playing and based off of the guys that are getting hurt. we don't know what's going on with McCaffrey. They said he was going to miss 3 games, and here we are going into week 8, and there's still no timetable on when he could even come back to playing football. Ayuk now out for the season, even though he wasn't playing great. Juwan Jennings has been hurt, who's their leading receiver so far this year.
Towards ACL?
Yeah, or meniscus, one of them two.
Man, that contract came in right.
Couldn't have come at a better time. But that's
honestly. Why you don't play without a deal.
Because you don't know what's going to happen. Because what were they going to have to pay him now if you're coming off a torn meniscus as a receiver? And I think they said he did multiple tears in that knee, so it might be even longer than just the year timetable for Ayuk. So prayers for him, and hopefully he gets back soon. But we don't know when he's going to be back. Debo is going into the last year on his deal. A lot of question marks. I said this before the season. We kept tabling the question of is the 49ers run over with? And it's unfortunately looking like injuries is going to play a big part in answering that question on is the 49ers run over with? And is the magic with Kyle Shanahan starting to dwindle away? Because I still believe he's a great play caller, but we've seen offensive struggles this entire year, even in the games that they won. We've seen offensive struggles this entire year. So it's going to be tough for the Niners. They're on an uphill battle. But I want to ask you the question before we go back to break for the top of the hour. Who are some of your top teams in both of these conferences, AFC and NFC? If you could get about 3 teams for each one, AFC and NFC, who would your top teams be as of right now?
Oh, man. So I think AFC is pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's Baltimore. It's Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't leave Buffalo out of it. I want to, but who you put, if you leave Buffalo out, who do you put in? Nobody that I trust, And to be honest with you, I trust Josh Allen more than I trust maybe a team like the Steelers.
C.J. Stroud.
Yeah. To be honest with you. Then when you look over on the NFC, and this is gonna be pretty wild,
mm-hmm.
right? But when you really look at it, say this, but 2 of them are going to come out of the NFC North, which you have to
possibly
say,
3. I was going to say all 3.
Minnesota,
I was going to say Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. I don't think there's another team that's played better than those guys in the NFC. Who you could say Washington. I guess you could throw those guys in there, but if you look at their schedule, they hadn't beat a lot of really good teams.
Same with Philly. They haven't beat a lot of good teams.
No, you definitely can't put Philly in there.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying pretty much same record, but I wouldn't put them in there because they haven't beat a lot of good teams, and some of their wins just stink. Honestly, they just didn't really look good. Like the Cleveland Browns win, that didn't look like a good win. I do like that Jalen Hurts is finding that connection again with A.J. Brown, and he's showing, as we just talked about with Brock Purdy, when you give a guy some Ferraris on the outside, it makes the quarterback look a lot better for them. And we've seen that with Jalen Hurts. He looks a lot better than what he did at the beginning of the year. I still think he's one of the top quarterbacks. And I got to shout out Jared Goff, man. Jared Goff is playing phenomenal football right now. I know y'all said he needs all that weather and stuff to be perfect for him and all that stuff, but Jared Goff is playing out of his mind right now, and he's in that MVP conversation as well. His last few games, I mean, I think the Lions in the last 4 games have more touchdowns than he has in completions. I gotta give him credit for the way that he's been playing, and it looks phenomenal. We just saw him go 22 for 25. He controlled that entire game against Minnesota Vikings. That ended up being closer because of that fumble by Montgomery. Didn't have anything to do with Goff. That fumble by Montgomery that they returned for a touchdown at the end. But the Lions, they started off down 10, came back in that game, and they were in full control of it until that fumble towards the end of that game. But he went 22-25, 280 and 2 touchdowns, man. And Jahmyr Gibbs is a real problem for people in the league. Amon-Ra still doing what he's doing. Obviously, that offense is super explosive. Just seen the news of Jameson Williams going to be suspended for a couple games, but they'll be okay because he only shows up every 3 or 4 games anyway when they're out there. So Lions are scary.
So for me, we all know that Jared Goff he's an inside man.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is he plays well in the dome. He plays well in controlled environments. But we'll find out what kind of player he is when he goes to the frozen tundra in a couple weeks. And then, not that it's outside, so to speak, but he'll be playing against what I would consider pretty formidable matchup, intra-conference matchup against the Texans. You know, so that'll give him, you know, everybody, by all accounts, the Texans is pretty legit.
Yeah.
And so that'll give us a chance to measure golf against other high-level quarterbacks in, you know, on the road. Now, here's the crazy thing. He may not ever have to go outside to win the championship because they could lock up home field advantage. I know it's kind of early for us to talk about that, but you got to realize the Super Bowl is played in New Orleans this year.
Yeah. There's a perfect time for Jared Goff to make his run. It's with him being in the dome, and I think most of the Super Bowls is in a dome, but usually he has to go somewhere and play in unfair weather. Last year he had a pretty good stretch because they played at home until they played San Francisco, which is almost like a dome because we know what the weather is going to be like in San Francisco out there as well. So, and the Lions are looking legit. I'm hoping that they trade for a pass rusher with the loss of Aiden Hutchinson so they can shore up some of that defense because their defense is obviously going to be a problem. Even though shout out to Brian Branch, he's playing like a all-pro. He's playing at an all-pro level right now. He was playing at an all-pro level last year before he got hurt and missed majority of the season his rookie year. But he's playing at an all-pro level. Aiden Hutchinson was playing like the best pass rusher in the league before he got hurt, so that's unfortunate. They said he could potentially make a comeback if they make it to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they'll make it that far unless they make a move on defense just because I just do not trust their defense right now with their front seven being who's in their front seven, which is pretty much nobody. I like some of the young guys they got, Jack Campbell, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, Taron Arnold, who gave up a horrible touchdown to Aaron Jones on Sunday. I think that was the first touchdown. You playing corner, and for some reason you shot inside the B gap, and you playing corner. I don't know what you're doing. Aaron Jones got a walk-in 30, 40-yard touchdown. And shout out Jahmyr Gibbs, man. Made somebody pretty much fall out of bounds with a move. He hit one of the better safeties in the league, Cameron Bynum, with, and didn't even touch him with how bad he shook him, and then took off for another 50 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs is special, and we knew that about this team. Folks, we got some more to talk about when we come back. We're going to take a short break to touch the top of the hour. When we come back, talk about a couple more of these NFL teams. Still got to talk about the NBA season starts tonight. What are some of the things we're looking forward to seeing this season? Some of the players we're looking forward to watching this season. And we got to talk about Texas and Georgia this past weekend. Got to talk about Colorado being 5-2, looking like one of the top contenders in the Big 12. So we got a lot to talk about when we come back from this break, folks. Stay locked in right here on Centex Primetime. We'll be right back after this.
Central Texas home for sports. It's Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports. Catch all your in-depth sports analysis with the best. The hottest sports show in the evening is Centex Primetime, hosted by Jalen Gillis.
Act like y'all.
Weekdays 5 to 7. This is the Central Texas #1 leader in sports. Centex Sports Network.
That's right, sports fans. We can talk about sports.
And Infinity Sports.
NSJ Event Co., one of the premier event designers in Central Texas and a Centex Sports Network supporter. Voted Waco Awards Event Planner of the Year 2021, NSJ Event Co. is your go-to source for event planning. Whether it's your next baby shower, birthday bash, wedding, or retirement party, NSJ Event Co. will bring out the elegance, class, and style your event deserves. Call NSJ Event Co. at the number on the screen or scan the QR code to schedule a free consultation. NSJ Event Co., where the party lady takes care of all your event needs.
Lighthouse Streaming, a full-scale media agency and your go-to source for all things audio and video. Is your church long overdue for audio and video upgrades? Call Lighthouse Streaming for a free consultation. Does your corporate or church event need audio or video production? Don't stress. Call the guys at Lighthouse Streaming. In business since 2017, Lighthouse Streaming has produced hundreds of live events and completed dozens of church and venue installations. Whatever your AV needs are, Lighthouse Streaming has you covered. Give them a call at 254-252 254-252-4206. That's 254-252-4206. Or go to lighthousestreaming.com and set up your free consultation.
Are you looking for something new and unforgettable in Waco? Come to the Blazing Asian, where authentic Cambodian flavors meet creative culinary flair. Voted People's Choice as Waco's #1 Asian restaurant since 2019 by
59132.
We're serving up family recipes with a twist. Blazing Asian egg rolls are rolled fresh daily, and their sauces or marinades are made in-house with love. Stop by today. Located inside the popular Union Hall on 8th and Franklin. And for Baylor students, enjoy 10% off with your student ID.
Central Texas home for sports. It's Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports. KWBT-FM, HD2 Waco, Temple, Killeen, Fort Cavazos. The new leader in sports in Central Texas is Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports.
Holy Jesus. What is that?
It's time to get in the game.
You know what time it is.
Tune in to Primetime Sports Talk with Jalen Gillis.
To me, you are nothing.
Your go-to source for breaking sports news in Central Texas and exclusive Dallas Cowboys coverage.
Well, start it up. Let's go.
Catch us Monday through Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. on the Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into Centex Prime Time, hour number 2 here on the show. Happy Tuesday to everybody out there. Want to thank you all for tuning in with me so far today. I know some of you guys just now getting off of work, headed back to the house right now. Some of you guys just clocking into work, headed up to work. As always, I appreciate you guys for tuning in with me today. Joined in studio today by Rocky Miller, as he's here with me every Tuesday as we chop it up about some of these sports topics right now, the trending sports topics. Hour number 1, we got to talk about a lot of NFL teams, got to talk about Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, how the Ravens are dominating right now. Got to talk about who are the top teams that we like in both conferences as well. Even got to throw out a top 5 running back list all time. That was kind of spur of the moment, but it ended up being good. We both agreed on pretty much most of our picks, so we're all good there. Folks, tonight we know is the start of the NBA season, and we haven't talked a lot of basketball here on the show so far, but that obviously is going to change now. The NBA season is starting. It's tipping off tonight as the defending champs, Boston Celtics, are going to be taking on the New York Knicks. And you know that LeBron and the Lakers will always be on opening night some kind of way. So they will play the second half of the doubleheader as they take on Ant-Man and the Minnesota Timberwolves. So as we get started here in the NBA season, just want to talk about a couple of the storylines that I like, that I'm looking forward to seeing coming into this season. Obviously, will the Celtics be able to repeat? They've got a great chance to. They've got their core locked up for they have their core locked up for the majority of the future. Drew Holiday and Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Derek White, all of those guys are locked in over the next few years, being under contract. So they've got a great chance to be able to do that. The Dallas Mavericks, the team that played them in the finals, I already said it, and I'll come out and say now that I don't think the Mavericks are going back to the finals. I don't think that's much of a hot take. No, we got a lot of Mavericks fans that watch with us. We even got Mavericks fans that come on the show with me. Shout out Kyrell. And he was loving what Luka was able to do last season. But I think that magic is going to end. I do like the Minnesota Timberwolves to go back to the conference finals, though. That's a team that got to go to the conference finals for the first time since 2004. Yeah, they traded away Karl Anthony Towns, but if you watch that playoffs, I don't think Karl Anthony Towns did much anyway. A lot of the games they lost was because he played so bad. So will Julius Randle do the same? That will be determined. The NBA season's a long season, and I can't wait to be able to watch that, how not only will play out tonight, but throughout the season. Obviously, tonight will be all about, are they going to stick Bronny in at any point for him to break, for him to be the first person to be able to play with their dad on the court. This adds to LeBron's GOAT conversation, in my opinion, because he got his son not only to a good college when he didn't have much high school tape. He was a McDonald's All-American when he averaged like 8 points. Now he's got him drafted and on the same team as him, now going into the NBA. Obviously, it will be a script pulled out tonight if Bronny gets in the game, because most late second-round picks do not touch the floor in the opening night of the season. But Bronny might tonight because of obvious storyline reasons. So I'm excited to see a few different things this NBA season coming up. Last year, we saw, like I said, the Celtics be able to win, be able to win it all. I think teams like OKC have a great chance to make a run this year. I like what Shai Gilgeous does out there. They added guys like Alex Caruso, and they got a young core. They're getting better and better each year. I think that, and honestly, the Knicks have a decent chance to be able to make some noise in the East. Now they add Karl-Anthony Towns. They added Mikal Bridges over the summer. I don't know how it'll mesh. It probably won't mesh great at the start of it, but I think Coach Tibbs is a good coach, and they'll get it together towards the end of the season. I don't expect the Lakers to go to the finals. LeBron is my favorite player, but I'm going to be realistic. He's 40. Like, come on, y'all. Y'all want this man to go win the finals every single year. Like, he's finna be getting a pension plan in just a minute. Like, y'all got to chill on him and these expectations of what the Lakers are going to go out there and do. But I understand it. It's Lakers, it's Tinseltown, and it's LeBron. There's always those expectations whenever he steps out onto the court. And I'm excited to see what my Houston Rockets are going to do, man. I'm a Rockets fan. I'll let everybody know that as the season starts. I think we're making the playoffs this year. Last year we were close. I think this year we'll get in that top 8, make the playoffs. We got us a cold white boy that we drafted, top 3, Reed Shepherd. Shout out to him. And we got a nice young core, man. I think the Rockets can make a little bit of noise. Will we go 3-4 rounds in the playoffs? I ain't saying all that. I'm just saying I think they're gonna be good this year. And then I'm excited to see what Nikola Jokic is gonna do, man. They give him the MVP every single year. Will they be able to bounce back? And what now they lost KCP out there. They're gonna have to start some young guys in there. Is the wear and tear on Jokic finally just gonna catch up after being one of the top 3 teams for the last 3 or 4 years? And will Jamal Murray get it together? Because he looked kind of rusty in the playoffs, and in the Olympics he looked terrible. So will he be able to come out there and get it together this year? So those are a couple of storylines I like going into the NBA season. Rocky, what are some things you're looking forward to seeing as the NBA season starts tonight and going forward?
Well, much like you, I'm looking forward to see what the Lakers are going to offer. I think as a Laker fan, LeBron fan, let me just be
Yeah.
I think we have to keep our mind open and let the team kind of shape up and evolve to what they end up being. I think with a new coach.
Yeah. What you think about Redick, by the way? What you think about Redick?
I mean,
getting the slot.
Man, I really like Darvin Ham.
Okay.
As a coach. However, you could see where he was kind of rigid in the way that he managed the team. He wanted to kind of put out a team that was, in my opinion, that was defensively oriented at first.
Yeah.
Only to realize, if you go defense, them guys won't be able to score. And so I just think whoever LeBron is comfortable with, and I think he's comfortable with JJ, I think can work. Ultimately, what it's going to boil down to is, unfortunately, what kind of performance we're going to get as Laker fans out of Anthony Davis. That's gonna shape up.
Played good last year.
As to what they're going to be able to do in the playoffs, whatever. I hope some of the role players that they have, hope the system that JJ brings allows them to be more consistent. You don't have these 30-point games and then go weeks on end where it be Rui or
D'Angelo Russell
or or all those guys, scoring single digits for 3 weeks and then they have a 30-point game. I think Vando being healthy gives us an opportunity to defend a wing defenders like Anthony
Edwards. Yeah,
like Anthony Edwards. We really didn't have a good matchup if Vando wasn't in the game for that. And I hope he develops better offensively and becomes more of a specialist on the offensive side.
Yeah, and
becomes more consistent. Like I say, and then I'm really looking forward to see if they could actually find a role for Bronny. Really, I say he's he's probably the 12th man, but look at this. Who would better match up tonight against Conley on the Lakers team?
He's the best matchup defensively for sure.
You know what I mean? If Conley if there's a fire that needs to be put out with Conley or something like that, because we don't really have those kind of players on the roster. You know what I mean? So again, I just think when you look at it, I'm also looking to see if Dalton Connect, that shooting that he was doing in the summer league and then in preseason, is it for real? Can it translate into the regular season? Are they going to give him a chance to do that?
I think so.
And is he can he play enough defensively where he's not a liability to allow his offense to kind of shine? Because that's usually what was challenging for rookies is they may have a good offensive package, but they expose you on defense, and therefore, you can't afford to play him as many minutes as you like. So, but again, I think LeBron's going to be LeBron. Yeah,
for sure.
LeBron's going to be able to give you – he may not be able to give you 27 this year, but surely he'll be able to give you anywhere from 22 to 25.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Most
definitely.
And I'm looking forward to see what his role is going to be this year.
Yeah.
What do you think we're going to do at point guard, man?
That's the question. Now, I understand J.J. Redick wants to give D'Angelo Russell a chance because D'Angelo Russell can when he's on, he can shoot the ball. We've seen him win games, even in the playoffs with his shooting. He can be lights out. He is a terrible defender, and when he's not shooting the ball well, he's essentially pointless out there at the guard spot. Now, you don't want a true Rondo, Jason Kidd type of point guard on a LeBron team because that's just not how LeBron teams function. You want a shooter at that point guard spot because LeBron is a distributor. I'm looking forward to LeBron being top 5 assist again this year in the league, maybe even top 3 in assists this year in the league when you think about guys like Dalton Connect. And the starting lineup is not as big of a deal. I'm looking at that closing lineup. Who's going to be in that closing lineup? Do we stick Vando out there so we can have a defender, even with his deficiencies shooting the ball? Do you stick Rui Hachimura out there because we know he can stretch the floor and honestly go get a bucket when you need it? Do we stick? Do we go with Dalton Connect and Austin Reeves in the backcourt when it gets into crunch time because of the spacing that will put on the floor? You put a lot on LeBron dribbling the ball, and what I want to see most is, will anybody let Anthony Davis play power forward again? It's almost like last time he played power forward, they won a championship. You think it wouldn't be so hard to just be like, hey, maybe we should put some size out there with Anthony Davis so he can show that he is one of the best, if not the best defender in the league whenever he can step out there and guard wings and be able to protect the rim weak side whenever they have a true center in there and he doesn't have to sit down low and get beat up by Jokic and Embiid and guys like that every other night. I'm interested to see what they're doing with that. I've seen them play a lot of lineups in preseason with Jackson Hayes at the center spot and Anthony Davis at the 4. So I'm interested to see what they do that. Maybe they'll do that when they take LeBron out just to help with spacing. But there's a lot of different lineups for this team. Will Gabe Vincent be able to get you anything this year? He was injured most of last year. They try to throw him into the playoffs last year, but he never even got a chance to really catch a rhythm. And like you said with Bronny, will he be able to carve out a role? I don't know. But it'll be interesting if he can actually come out there and play some legit defense. I don't see why not, because what you just said, who's going to guard anybody at the guard spot right now for the Lakers? It's not going to be Austin Reeves. It's not going to be D'Angelo Russell. If you need somebody to guard, the problem with Bronny is I think he would have a legit role on his team if he could hit a shot. In preseason, in summer league, his shooting was terrible. Honestly, it was just terrible. He's shooting horribly from behind the arc. Can that be fixed? Can that change? I think so. I think he can if he puts in the time and puts in the work. But if it doesn't, he's not going to be able to find his way on his team, even what he can bring defensively. I think he can bring a lot defensively to this team. I think that's going to be his calling card in the league, and he can play that Patrick Beverley or, somebody like that, or even in more recent last year, Miles McBride and what he was able to bring to the New York Knicks, playing defense and then just shooting threes, nothing more, nothing less. If he can do that, I think he can carve out a role on his team. So I'll be interested to see if he's able to do that with this Lakers squad. And obviously they're going to get a ton of primetime games. They're going to be on TV 30 or 40 times, maybe even more than that this year. So we'll get plenty of time to be able to see how that goes.
Well, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a situation where Bronny's so famous that he has to play.
I hope it doesn't get to that. Right now it is. I mean, I just seen that Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. bought tickets and they're going to be at the game tonight to be able to watch if LeBron and his son can get on the court. Like that's bringing too much to it, and that's bringing too much pressure, and we don't know how Bronny does with pressure right now. I'd rather him not play and develop in the G League than him get out here and play and be trash, because the internet is going to kill him. The internet is going to kill him, and he's a young guy. LeBron didn't grow up on the internet, so the internet obviously didn't destroy his psyche like it can with other people. Bronny grew up on the internet. We don't know what that's going to do when everybody's saying that.
One of the things that, now this is coming from LeBron,
mm-hmm.
and I want to say I heard him say this in the shop interview,
mm-hmm.
and I want to say Bronny was maybe a freshman, and this may have been even before his heart issue.
Mm-hmm. At USC, yeah.
At USC, when he says, all this stuff that's going all around, people have opinions, he says, Bronny doesn't care.
Yeah, I seen that.
Right?
Where he said that. Yeah.
And he said, so I'm wondering has that changed with the massive attention that Bronny has gotten, his workouts, his tryouts, mm-hmm. his collegiate career. And it's also, to be honest with you, it's been mostly underwhelming. He had some bright spots. Probably the brightest moment he had was when the most was on the line, and I'll say that was when he went to the combine.
Yeah.
He had the most on the line when he went to the combine.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is, how many other NBA players was at the combine?
Exactly.
Now, that ends up being the question. I don't think Bronny's a good player, no doubt. He's a really good basketball player for, he's a high-level basketball player.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Is he a pro? Can he be impactful at the highest level? That's
the question mark. That's the question mark and surrounding him. And like you, the Rockets are my favorite team, but I root for the Lakers because LeBron is on the Lakers. And the problem with that is Anthony Davis is a matchup problem for anybody in the league, and he can defend anybody in the league. LeBron is still one of the best players in the league. So they have enough to be able to make a run in the playoffs every year. Will they do it is the question mark, and they get your hopes up. Even last year, how do you get the draw of getting the champs of the years past as your first round matchup? And in that first round matchup, you have a double-digit lead in every single game, but somehow you end up being swept or losing in 5 in that series. It's hard to watch sometimes, but hopefully, I'm hoping the Lakers can do something, man. And I think J.J. Redick will bring something different to this team offensively. I think Darvin Ham is definitely a more experienced coach, but I think J.J. Redick knows basketball. Some people saying it like he had a podcast and he was a guy like me or something that just had a show and just talking about sports. Like, the dude played in the league for 15 years. Like, he knows basketball and he knows what he's talking about. Does that translate to coaching? That's yet to be determined. So we'll see about that. But I'm excited about the NBA season. That starts tonight. New York Knicks taking on Boston tonight. That game is coming on in about 15 minutes here. And Minnesota Timberwolves and the Los Angeles Lakers will be playing tonight. It's the best time of year, like I said earlier.
Let me just ask you this.
Yeah.
Talking about the Knicks and then of course, Minnesota's playing the Lakers. What did you think about the trade that was made?
I think it was interesting. I'll start with that. I think it was interesting. I think it's a move away from the Tibbs tradition. Every team that Coach Thibodeau has coached has been built the exact same. Ball dominant point guard, shot blocking 5-man, a 4-man that can get on the block and shoot. Julius Randle, Carlos Boozer, Jalen Brunson, Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, Mitchell Robinson, and the Isaiah Hartenstein that they threw out last year. All his teams have been built the same, so he's moving away from that tradition, and I think almost by force because all of his best players are wings outside of Brunson. All his best players are wings. Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby. You got to have a chance to put all those guys out there, and with Julius Randle, you weren't going to have a chance to be able to do that. So I think with them getting Karl Towns, it's interesting. Could it benefit them? For sure. It's a higher upside than what they were going into with Randle because Karl Towns gives you that floor spacing ability. I don't know what Karl Towns is going to bring defensively. That's my issue with the trade. If I did have an issue, I don't know what he's going to bring defensively, but all of their wings are defensive-minded with Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. I'm mad they broke up the Villanova boys, man. It was cool to see a whole team of the team that won a championship in college all get together in the pros and try to put together a team to be able to win. So I think it's a benefit for New York in the long run. Minnesota's in, I don't know. I don't know how Julius Randle will fit with them. But like I said earlier, if Karl Towns, when you get in the playoffs, is giving you 10 points anyway, why not get a cheaper version of that guy that could possibly give you 10 points? Julius Randle, the thing I do like about Julius Randle, he's got the same mentality as Anthony Edwards. Karl Towns has had the same problem since I think he got in the league. He's not, I don't want to call anybody soft. He's an NBA player. He's a pro athlete and they're grown men. But he doesn't have that dog mentality that him and Anthony Edwards were two different personalities. They don't have that dog mentality. Julius Randle has that dog mentality of, I'm just going to come out here and hit people if I can't do nothing else. Karl Towns showed that in the playoffs, he's not shooting the ball well. He doesn't rebound the ball well. He's not shot blocking well. He's kind of just pointless out there. I think this defines more of a role for Rudy Gobert as well, to be just a defender and kind of giving him back to just traditional 5-man type of role. And the greatest part about the trade, and while I probably give the edge to the Timberwolves, is they got DiVincenzo, who's a great defender and was one of the best shooters in the NBA last year. So I think it was a pretty even swap for both teams, honestly. And we'll see it play out tonight. I like the trade for both.
My interesting point about it, I think you pointed out brilliantly, is that it changes offensive philosophy and changes both teams' identity, so to speak. Take a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, basically a 6'8", 6'9" perimeter guy. You know, that doesn't seem like that's something that Tibbs would be interested in.
Not at all.
Considering he's a defensive-minded guy. See, it's interesting to see whether or not he's going to require Karl Anthony Towns to play more defense, be more defensive-minded.
Yeah.
Or is he going to let him to be that roaming perimeter 4 guy?
Yeah.
Something tells me he's gonna ask more of Karl Anthony Towns.
Oh yeah,
defensive end
for sure.
When you think about, I'm just like you may not know how Cat's gonna fit. I don't understand how Russell's gonna fit, because he's a player
Randall.
that likes to play on the block. And
talking about Julius Randle.
Yeah, Julius Randle. I'm sorry.
No, you
Julius
good.
Randle. He's a player that likes to play on the block as well, and does that interfere with some of the things that Rudy Gobert is going to try to do, and does it crowd the lane when Anthony Edwards is driving? One thing about I think that allowed for Cat to do the work that he could do is because him being on the perimeter kind of opened the lane up for Anthony Edwards. So you know.
That's a huge piece.
What is Julius Randle's role? And will there be more? Will Minnesota shoot less 3 balls this year and try to do pound it in the block and more of a have more of a mid-range attack? Like I say, or have an attack that's more similar to Utah, where you incorporate a lot of the block play along with the mid-range game.
Yeah.
I just think it's really, really interesting. One of the other things in this team isn't playing tonight, but I'm really interested in how Utah is going to use Westbrook.
Denver.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Denver. How Denver is going to use Westbrook. I
am too.
And what's his role? And what's his role going to be?
Yeah.
Is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be a bench player? I see where he could, actually log a lot of minutes with those guys because they're at one point they had a lot of effort guys when they had Bruce Brown and KCP.
When they won the championship, yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot of effort guys.
Yeah.
And they kind of got away from that.
They did.
Brought in some younger guys, probably even more skilled younger guys, but they just weren't as tough defensively as they had been. And to be honest with you, when you talk about timely shots, none of the new players were able to make shots the way KCP made his shots, but the way Bruce Brown was able to make shots when the game was on the line.
For sure.
Especially in that Lakers series.
Yeah.
When Lakers took them deep. So a couple years ago. But man, I'm excited about the NBA. This is a great time of year. We get the World Series, we get NBA kicking off, and we're in football. It's kind of making sense right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Not only in college, but also in the pros.
Yeah, both sides are starting to make sense in football. Like you said, the World Series doesn't get any more nostalgic than Yankees Dodgers in the World Series. I think that's going to be crazy to see. I got the Dodgers as my pick right now to win it all. I think Shohei Ohtani's the best player in the MLB by far, and I think they got a lot of guys.
Yeah, I like the last black player in professional baseball, Mookie Betts.
Yeah, Mookie Betts, who was a phenomenal athlete. I've seen videos of him windmilling, dunking the ball. I've seen videos of him catching footballs, jumping 2-3 feet out off in the air. He's just a phenomenal athlete. So
I think they've been given a hard time when they won one during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And this is a chance for them to kind of, settle that of them being true champions.
Similar to the Lakers, who won theirs during the pandemic as well, who still didn't get their parade. I think that's messed up. They never let them dudes get their parade, man. That was going to be LeBron's last parade, potentially, man. Y'all should have let them guys get a makeup parade somewhere in there. But before I get off the NBA, to your Russell Westbrook point, man, I'm definitely interested in seeing that. And Jokic has never played with a playmaker like that. So I'm interested to see how that relationship will go between Jokic and Westbrook. He's by far the best playmaker that Jokic has been able to play with.
I'll say this. In my opinion, the best version of Westbrook, the most, I ain't gonna say the best version, let me just say the most efficient version of Westbrook was when he played with ball dominant James Harden.
Yeah.
He was a very efficient player in that offense.
Yeah.
He didn't have the ball as much, James, but he was able to play off James and was really effective a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people try to pass Westbrook off as a one-trick pony, but I think his effort and intensity will allow him to fulfill many roles on the basketball team, and he's not just restricted to being a ball-dominant point guard.
If he can hit a jump shot or two, man, he's gonna be dangerous for the Nuggets. It's just that simple. If he can make a timely jump shot here or there, he's gonna be one of the best pickups in the offseason. Because Russell Westbrook is still a high-level player, regardless of what people think. His time in the Lakers kind of left a sour taste in everybody's mouth. But that's not Russell Westbrook and how he plays all the time. We know what type of point guard, who's honestly at this point starting to not get enough credit. I'm seeing people put all these lists of great point guards out, and somehow Russell Westbrook gets left out. I'm like, man, y'all are tripping. Y'all really don't understand how hard it is for somebody to average a triple-double for 4 years. It's actually ridiculous for somebody to be able to do that. So shout out Russell, man. I'm excited to see what he can do on the Denver Nuggets. And you just alluded to it being the best time of year in sports, and alluded to football starting to make sense. And we're starting to see college football start to make sense. And they've had a lot of storylines over this past couple of weeks, man. A lot of changes have been made in NCAA football. And we just saw one of the better games out there this past weekend with the Georgia Bulldogs pulling off a win versus the Texas Longhorns. Was obviously slated to be the game of the week. Texas, the new dogs in the SEC, trying to come in and be able to take over the SEC, and it looked like they were going to do that for the first 6 weeks of the season. They were breezing by, honestly, everybody, even the good teams that they played. They played a Michigan and destroyed them. They played a Oklahoma and destroyed them, even though, like I said all week, those two teams aren't the Georgia Bulldogs team that they're finna play, but that, and nonetheless, still good competition, and they were able to easily get by them. But they ran into the old dogs out there in Austin last weekend, came up short in that game, 30-15 game, a game with multiple storylines that come out of it. One, obviously Texas dropping that number one spot, Georgia getting right back up there. Now they're sitting at number 2 right behind Oregon. 2, you've got the thing with Quinn Ewers. It's a thing at this point. This is a thing. The benching of Quinn Ewers, everybody talked about it the last few weeks of, oh man, is he going to bench Quinn if he starts playing bad? I was on Twitter during that Oklahoma game and seeing people saying when Quinn Ewers was struggling that first quarter and a half, hey, should we look at Arch? Maybe Quinn's not right yet. Should we look at Arch Manning? We seen Arch Manning get out there. They only gave him 2 series. Didn't do much in those 2 series, but I didn't think they gave him time to do anything in those 2 series. So they put Quinn back in the game. They come out and score right away in the third quarter, but it ended up not being enough. The O-line of Texas that we thought was the best O-line in the nation, it still could be. They just got beat up. They got whooped. They got destroyed by this Georgia front seven. All these projected first-round picks that are on Georgia's front seven, we got to see what that looked like this last week. We got to see Jalen Walker take over the game and have 3 sacks. We got to see Mikael Williams, who was one of the best projected defenders in college football, coming in hurt early in the season, now coming back being healthy, him getting 2 sacks out there. We've seen this Texas offensive line just losing, and that was the key to the game. Texas's defense played good enough for them to win. It's the offense that's the problem. Steve Sarkisian is an offensive coach. That's what's got to get solved out there. The defense came up with 3 takeaways. They played great. Carson Beck didn't have a good game at all. 23 of 41, 175 and 3 picks. But this Georgia team still overmatched Texas. Rocky, what did you think about this game this weekend? And then what do you think about what this means for both of these teams going forward, Texas and Georgia?
Well, you know, I think the story of this game is Sark got out coached. Like,
sure.
That's simple, this game. I think, honestly, with all things being said, I think Texas is the best team. In a game like this, and you try to throw the ball 50 times or 49, and you know, I just don't think that was the key to success for Texas. Coming out. They came out throwing the ball, trying to throw the ball around the yard. They had, in my opinion, honestly, I think the way to play this game was keep it close to the vest until Beck makes a mistake. And what ended up happening is Texas made the mistakes and Georgia got the short fields and kind of got the lead. Like I said, I think Texas is a really, really good team. I think trying to make this team a team that's led by their offense and Quinn Ewers or whether it's Arch Manning in big games, I don't think is the key to success. I think the key to success is the Saban system. Yeah. Play good defense and run the football. Yeah. But when you have those dynamic quarterbacks, guys like Sark especially want to put the ball in the hands of the quarterback and whatever. Like I say, also Georgia, their quarterback didn't play good at all, in my opinion.
Not even a little bit.
He tried to give the game away
multiple times,
and rather than just play the field position game, let's be patient. What's in them happening? They try to make a few plays, and Ewers throws an interception, has some really bad plays. The things that as I'm thinking about the game, the thing that hurt Texas more than anything is the negative plays and the 0 yardage run. Yeah. Like that's what hurt them. Kept them behind the chains, and so I think if Sark had to do it over again, he'd come in with a much more conservative game plan, understanding that he has the ability to hold the dogs down and just try to capitalize off their mistakes.
Yeah, if you come into this weekend and you say we're gonna hold Carson Beck to under 200 yards throwing, no touchdowns and 3 picks, you expect to come out with a win in that game, and then you hold their running game to close to 100 yards, maybe under 100 yards in that game as well. You expect to come out with the win in those games. The formula for beating a Georgia team in the last few years, really since they've been on their championship run, ever since Tua was able to come in and win that game at the end and back in like 2019 when he threw that touchdown to Devontae Smith, the formula has been a mobile quarterback, and that's why I think they should have gave Arch some more time out there, in my opinion. I don't like the going back and forth. I'm not a fan of just benching Quinn Ewers, but if you're going to bench him, I'm not a fan of benching him and then bringing him right back in the game because now two quarterbacks' confidence are hurt. You hurt Quinn Ewers' confidence for benching him, and you hurt Arch Manning's confidence for bringing him in and taking him right back out of the game.
Here's the issue. You have one quarterback that has a durability issue, and the other quarterback, you don't want to bring him in just to be a mobile threat. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You really needed a quarterback last night that could threaten your team in the run, threaten the team in the run game. I don't know the stats, but I think neither one of them, neither one of them ran the ball. One was for -1, which is
that was for the sacks. He had that 21-yard run and the one run that Arch did get breaking away, but
but what I'm saying is
sacks,
the quarterback needed to be a threat in the running game.
Mm-hmm.
That would have loosened some things up for them. The one time, if you watch Kirby and Nick Saban pretty much play the same defense.
Mm-hmm.
They mostly want to play the too high man defense.
Keep everything in front of you.
Keep everything in front of them. The cool thing about that a lot of times is that you can get the quarterback on the scramble a lot, especially if you catch them in two-man. Now on third down and short, they're going to run a spy concept or even a robber. But what you want to do is they're going to know that they're going to play that man-to-man and know that you're always going to have opportunities to get that quarterback in the running game.
Yeah.
And so that's what you should have came in with. But I know why you didn't want to run Quinn Ewers because of he's injury prone. And then if you implement a game plan where you're going to use it, because that's what I thought they were going to do when they switched. I thought they were going to use Arch legs in the running game.
Yeah, so did I.
Unlock the Georgia defense. And they did a couple of plays, but they went back to
Yeah. And I'm like I said, I'm not a fan of doing that. If you're gonna do one, you gotta stick with your choice, man. You gotta stand on it if you're gonna bench him, or if you just think Quinn is the better option, you just gotta stand on that and stay out there with Quinn. Playing the back and forth thing, I think, kind of hurts him going forward because now it's just quarterback questions. That it already was quarterback questions, but now there's even more quarterback questions going in. So going forward, both of these teams, I think honestly, this is going to be the SEC championship game. Between these two teams, once again, I think Texas is going to get back on track against Vanderbilt, even though we know they're not just going to be the easiest out. I think they'll get back on track in Vanderbilt, and then they'll have another tough game at the end of the year against Texas A&M playing at Kyle Field out there in College Station as well. But I expect Texas to win out, and I expect Georgia to win out. I expect both of these teams to be able to match up in the SEC championship. Originally, I said Texas and Alabama, but with Alabama losing to Tennessee and you already lost to Vanderbilt, I think that hurts their chances tremendously of going to the SEC championship. They'll probably still get in the college football playoffs if they don't go out here and lay another egg. But I think it hurts their chances of getting to the SEC championship game. So these two teams will get another crack at each other. And, on a neutral field, well, that field's not so neutral because it's always in Atlanta. And that'll be more of a home game for Georgia. They were on the road this time. Mm-hmm. But, I'm interested to see how that'll go if both of these teams are able to stay healthy and get to the SEC championship game once again. It moves Texas back to number 5 now in the rankings, moves Georgia up to number 2 in the rankings, only behind Oregon, who's got probably the best win so far, I guess, of the season, beating Ohio State, and one of the few remaining undefeated teams left in college football, especially playing in those two power conferences in the Big Ten and in the SEC. We talked about Quinn Ewers as a quarterback. I want to talk about another quarterback that he's been compared to for some reason throughout the season, in Shedeur Sanders. Colorado Buffaloes 5-2 now on the season. They come out and handily beat Arizona. Not saying that it's a shocker, like Arizona's just a great team, but the lines have been the lines, what they've been so far this season. And Colorado hasn't been favored in many of these lines so far throughout the season.
They were favored in the Baylor game and they were favored in the North Dakota game.
And that's it throughout the whole 7 games they played so far this season. Those are only 2 games they've been favored in. So we can't sit here and pretend like now they try to go back in hindsight and, oh, well, Arizona wasn't that good and going on. Don't try to take the credit away now when they handle the team that they're supposed to handle like they did against UCF and like I think they'll probably do against Cincinnati. So Colorado now sitting in the spot where they're tied for third place in the Big 12, tied for third place in the Big 12 just based off of record with Cincinnati, Texas Tech, and Kansas State. They lost to Kansas State in a close game that they probably should have won. They definitely had a chance to win in that game. They got a chance to still beat Cincinnati and Tech, and which I think that especially after what Tech looked like this weekend against Baylor, you let Baylor come out and almost put 60 on you. Colorado definitely got a chance. And then Cincinnati this weekend, they'll get a chance to play them who are surprisingly sitting at 5-2. And so far this year, not that they just played crazy competition, but I didn't think Cincinnati would be at 5-2. I thought they would be more towards the bottom of the conference, like UCF and Houston and Oklahoma State, who's at the very bottom of the conference. The only team in the conference to not have a win in the conference is Oklahoma State, even though they're projected to be one of the top teams in the Big 12. So now looking at Colorado, sitting at 5-2, a chance to potentially still win this Big 12. We don't know what BYU and Iowa State will do moving throughout these last few weeks. First question is, does Colorado have a chance to win this Big 12? Second question is Coach Prime the Coach of the Year candidate right now?
Well, I think it's kind of early to discuss Coach of the Year candidate.
Okay.
Coach Prime, I think he's done up to this point a pretty remarkable job.
Yeah.
Considering how the season started with a really competitive game against North Dakota State, then a loss to Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
People really down on him. Had a really tough time against Baylor. People were still down on him. And then they kind of turned it. They kind of hit their stride against UCF.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, they played really competitive against Kansas State. And then last week they dismantled Arizona, who people thought was a decent team.
Yeah.
But I'll remind people, Arizona is currently 3-4 and 1-3 in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Baylor, who they beat, is currently 1-3 in the Big 12.
3-4 record.
Yeah. And so when we started evaluating who they are, I don't think we know yet. I just think we don't know who
That's fair.
Colorado really is. I think we'll find out. And then they beat UCF, and they're also 1-3 in the Big 12. So we'll find out this week against Cincinnati. We'll get a better idea of who they are. They're hosting Cincinnati.
Yeah.
They get to play a team in that altitude, and we'll see. We'll see. I don't. This for me. If I had to pick, if someone say you got to bet this game, Rod, who you taking? And in this game, there's no way I'm gonna bet against Shedeur.
No way.
Game. He's and it's crazy how the narrative kind of gradually shifts to where everybody kind of understands now amongst even in the NFL circles now that the best quarterback is Shedeur, hands down.
Yeah,
they wanted it to be Quentin Hughes. There's a guy Carson Beck.
Yeah,
they wanted to give him an opportunity. I forget. There's one gentleman that plays somewhere else.
They got Cam Ward. They tried to make it Jalen Milroe at one point.
No. There's another guy that plays somewhere else. I'm trying to.
Jackson Dart, Ole Miss.
Yes.
Yeah. Jackson Dart.
Yeah. And so, and I think, to be completely honest, I think there is still a competition for who's the best pro prospect at quarterback. But I
for sure
think it's clearly between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
Most definitely.
But people would say Shedeur Sanders is doing it with much less, probably not much less at wide receiver, but it's much less
everywhere else.
Team support. You know what I mean? And Cam Ward could potentially be playing in the playoffs. And Shedeur, if he gets that team to the playoffs, it'll probably be one of the most monumental aspects of that it'll be tremendous.
Yeah.
I put it like this: if it will cement Shador as a college football legend, and also cement his dad as a pretty damn good coach.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think there's a lot of football left. There's a lot of football left.
Yeah,
but
a lot.
As I say that, they have Cincinnati and Texas Tech coming up. Which both of those teams are currently 3-1. Both of them have taken really tough losses as well. So they're not unbeatable. Neither one of these teams are unbeatable. They're certainly beatable. Shador will be the best player on the field. And so let's take a look at, I would say normally that Tech is a tough place to play, but looks like Baylor went down there and
I almost put a 60 ball on him.
Oh, man. Yeah. It was ugly. We'll see how Tech comes back against TCU, and we'll have them right here on 94.5 HD2 as the official broadcast partner of the Texas Tech Red Raiders athletics. But what I really want to focus on as far as Colorado is concerned is they come up with another great defensive performance like they did this past weekend. Yeah. I think Cincinnati provides a similar challenge as Arizona. And so we'll see how it goes. But I certainly, if I had to bet, I'm taking Colorado.
Oh, yeah. All day, every day. I'm taking Colorado. I'm hoping that line drops just a little bit more so I can get in on it.
Now,
I think it's 5 right now.
Oh, that's right.
It's 5.5 right now. I'm hoping it drops down to about 4.5, maybe 4. I'm not saying I wouldn't take it now, but that'll just make it put my mind a little bit more at ease, man. And I hope everybody beats Utah. I told y'all about my parlay earlier in the show. I hope Utah loses the rest of the games they got this year, man. They destroyed my great parlay that I had this weekend, man. They went ahead and messed that up against TCU.
What I truly hope is just for the sake of entertainment, just sick entertainment, is that they get through Cincinnati and they get through Texas Tech, and somehow they can go to Kansas or Oklahoma State with something on the line.
Yeah. And I think it will be.
If they get those two games, Utah's gonna be a tough game.
Oh, for sure.
And I think
for sure,
even with the situation, but again, I look at all these games. And I'm looking at Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. Here's the really weird thing about it. Though they're all probably really competitive games, if they win, they'll be the favorite in every game. If they win, if they beat Cincinnati, certainly they'll be the favorite against Texas Tech. If they beat Texas Tech, I think they'll be the favorite even
against Utah.
Even against on the road against Utah. If they beat Utah, excuse me. I think they'll be home against Utah.
Yeah, they'll be at home.
They'll be home against Utah. And then at Kansas, they'll probably be the favorite against Kansas.
Yeah.
And then against if they're 9-2 going into the Oklahoma State game, they'll be the favorite right there.
And I'm scared of that. I'm scared of them being 9-2 going into Oklahoma State with all those implications on it. Them having to play. Are they playing at Stillwater or is it in Colorado?
It's in Colorado.
Okay, so at least it'll be at home. But man, Mike Gundy is good for one of those random games to pull out his hat where they go out and score 40-something points. They still got Ollie Gordon, who's still one of the best running backs in the nation. But man, to say that Colorado has a chance of being 10-2 so far at the end of this year would be, like you said, a phenomenal job for Shador.
And if they are
Coach
10-2, so here's the deal. I'm looking at the standings. Let me look at the schedule and just look at the standing. If I could look at the standings anyway. My question is, the teams they don't play, BYU
and Iowa State.
Could those guys end up playing against each other in the championship rather than rather than.
And they got Kansas State, who's going to have that advantage over them as well, as far as having that game advantage over them. But the good thing is Kansas State plays Iowa State, so there's a chance for them to either knock Iowa State down a notch in their last game, or a chance for Iowa State to take care of business and get Kansas State out of there and potentially boost Colorado even more. They're in a three-way tie. I think Tech obviously is going to fall out of that. Cincinnati, they got a chance to take out the other two teams that are tied with them in third place in Tech and Cincinnati. They've already played Kansas State, and unfortunately, Kansas State is going to have that edge on them. But Iowa State is going to have to play Kansas State still. BYU still has a Utah team that they always have tough games against. And Iowa State still has Utah and Kansas State to be able to play at the end of their season. I think Iowa State probably has that best chance of winning out. BYU really just keeps finding a way to win. They barely beat Oklahoma State. I thought Oklahoma State should have won that game. I think they'll take care of business against UCF, but they're playing Utah at Utah, man. I think Utah is going to win that game. That's a game I'll have. As of right now, I have Utah winning, even though Utah is not looking so great with Zach Wilson's little brother playing at quarterback since Cam Rising's been gone. But BYU's got they got an easy schedule going forward. They've had an easy schedule all year, honestly, even though they do have good wins against Kansas State, who we know is a decent team, and SMU, who actually has turned out to be a good team as well. They beat them early in the season too. So BYU got some good wins, but they got UCF, Utah, Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston left. So they got a favorable schedule going forward. It's going to be tough not only for college football to be able to pick this playoffs. We just talked about that last week on the show. But it's going to be tough for them to pick these championship games.
So, in other words, Arizona, this kind of – so there's a scenario available where Iowa State, Colorado, and Kansas State all have one loss.
Yeah, in the Big 12, yeah.
And BYU being undefeated.
Yes.
Wow, yeah, that's a pretty.
That's going to be tough, and it's a similar situation in the ACC. Clemson and Miami aren't playing each other this year. Clemson sitting at 5-0 in conference, 6-1 on the year. They're number 9. Miami's number 6 in the nation. They're 7-0. SMU is 6-1. They're sitting at number 22 in the nation. They're 6-1, and they don't play Miami or Clemson.
So here's my my question to you.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado sitting 2-10, 10-2.
Mm-hmm.
They're left out. Iowa State and BYU play for the championship. Of course, the champion goes to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
If the Big 12 has to get another team, who do you select at that point? Do you select the loser in the championship game, or do you select Colorado?
If BYU, let's just say Iowa State wins out, and BYU would have to lose another game because BYU's undefeated. And Colorado has 2 losses. So right now, yes, it would be BYU if they go. If both teams win out, Iowa State and BYU get there, and they play each other. Iowa State beats BYU. BYU's gonna get that slot because they'll only have 1 loss on the season, and Colorado will have 2. What'll make it interesting is if BYU, because I think even if Iowa State loses a game, they'll still put them in. Even if Iowa State loses to Kansas State, and then Iowa State goes to the championship and loses again, I think they'll still probably put them in over Colorado just because they'll probably say that their 2 losses will be better than Colorado's 2 losses. What'll be interesting is if BYU goes out here and loses to Utah, and then they go to the Big 12 championship and they lose to Iowa State, and they're both sitting at 10-2, who do you choose out of those 2? Because at that point, Colorado will probably be ranked. If they're sitting at 10-2, they'll be ranked somewhere in the 20s, maybe the low teens. Maybe the high teens. And then BYU, if they go out there and they lose to a Utah, like I said, and then they lose to Iowa State in the championship, they're both at 10-2. That's tough. That's going to be a tough decision for the college football playmakers. I think
the next 2 weeks for BYU is going to decide where they kind of finish.
I agree.
Going all the way to UCF, and then playing on the road against Utah.
Their rival.
Their rival. That's going to set them up. I think the UCF game is simply a trap game that they have to go across the country and play.
For sure.
The Utah game, it's a rivalry game. And then, and this is, this team has been overlooked somewhat, But I think if you look at them, they're a pretty good team.
Arizona State.
Arizona State.
Yeah. I thought that's who was going to be at the bottom of the conference when the season started, and they're sitting at 5-2 right now. They're 2-2 in Big 12 play, but they're sitting at 5-2. Their coach just came out and said they having tryouts for kickers after their game on Saturday. I thought that was pretty funny. But, yeah, that Arizona State game could be tough too, and it's at Arizona State. Probably going to be a night game at Arizona State, probably be packed. That'll be them Arizona State's last chance of playing a ranked team probably. So BYU got some competition coming up. But, man, I like I said, I don't envy these college football playoff committee. I don't envy the Big 12 or the ACC or any of these commissioners.
The crazy thing is that you literally could have 4 teams that are 81. I mean, 71
in conference play. Yeah, for sure. And then who are you gonna put in? I think Iowa State is probably gonna. I just think Iowa State's a better team. I'm not saying that like they just have a better wins
at that point. If all the teams are 81, is it ranking or is it?
I think they're going to go off quality of wins. I think is what they're going to go off of if they're all sitting there. Quality of wins and quality of losses as well. Who did you lose to? Nebraska kind of falling off a little bit has kind of hurt Colorado as well. We lost to Nebraska. Kansas State, I think, will end up being a decent loss for them. But Iowa State, man, I think Iowa State's got a chance to run the table here and win out. BYU's got some tough games coming up. And Kansas State, they've got a pretty good chance to win out as well, even though they have Iowa State at the end. I think that'll eventually knock out Kansas State and put them at 10-2, but that doesn't necessarily help Colorado because that'll have them the same record as them. And then they'll have that head-to-head matchup that you can go off of. So it's tough. Either way you slice it, it's tough in the Big 12 to pick. It's tough in these top Power 4 conferences. It's going to be tough all the way around.
So it's interesting. So it goes if you're tied, the first tiebreaker, of course, is head-to-head. The second tiebreaker will be your winning percentage against common conference opponents.
Winning percentage against common conference opponents. Okay. So that just makes it even more difficult going in to be able to make this pick because now you're really going off of almost opinion at that point, which is all opinion. But you're really.
Well, I mean, but like, how many teams would have played all 4 of those teams?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not many.
When you get to thinking about it,
yeah.
You know, how many teams would have played all 4 of those teams, and then you can really get into some really in-depth. Tiebreaker. Let me see.
Yeah.
The tied teams will be compared based on win percentage against the next highest placed common opponents in the standings.
So it can get tricky. It's going to get tricky.
The tied team. This is the 4th. The tied team will be compared on combined win percentage in conference games of conference opponents. The team, if you have the same record, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
The tied teams will be compared based on total number of wins in a 12-game season. So ultimately, what it'll boil down to also is how many total wins you have. So 11-1 team would have the edge if there was no head-to-head.
Yeah.
11-1 team would have an advantage over a 10-2 team, though they had the same conference record.
Yeah. So they'll go with the overall record too. So it's going to be, like I said, folks. I'm not envying either people, the ones that the commissioners of these conferences or the playoff committee. So it's going to be interesting to see how this breaks down going forward. But folks, we are out of time here today. Want to thank everybody for tuning in with me today. Rocky, real quick. Talk about HBCU's Coach's Corner coming on in about an hour.
Hey, make sure you stop by HBCU Coach's Corner at 1 hour at 8 o'clock. We're going to talk about all the exciting action this past weekend and my experience at Southern University's homecoming. Don't forget to tune in. That's at 8 o'clock tonight on 94.5 HD2 Infinity Sports Network.
Be sure definitely to tune in to that. All the HBCU fans that we have, we know we got plenty that watch the show with us. As always, folks, thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube Centex Sports Network on YouTube. Download the app, Centex Sports One app, to be able to listen to this content 5 to 7 weekdays. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Everybody have a great evening and go watch some basketball. Good night.
Central Texas home for sports. It's Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports. Catch all your in-depth sports analysis with the best. The hottest sports show in the evening is Centex Primetime, hosted by Jalen Gillis.
Act like y'all.
Weekdays 5 to 7. This is the Central Texas #1 leader in sports. Centex Sports Network.
That's right, sports fans. We can talk about sports.
And Infinity Sports.
Than $1,500. Call Coast One now. A 10-minute call can save you up to 93% on your back taxes. Get your fresh start today. That's 800-312-9970.
You're listening to the JR Sport Brief.
It is the JR Sport Brief Show here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. Thank you so much to everybody tuned in and locked in all over North America. All my Uber drivers, my Lyft drivers, delivery drivers, hospital workers, officers, military, my people holding it down, my people cleaning, my people cooking, my people chopping it up, my people driving home, my people driving to work, my people relaxing, my people building, the construction workers, everybody tuned in and locked in. Thank you so much. I'll be hanging out with you for the next 2 hours. This is a 4-hour show. It gets started every single week.